what really changed me and really got me into public speaking was the response from the young people. They were coming up to me after the assembly saying how much I've motivated them, how much I changed their life. And I was just like, but I just kept it real. Anyone can look good in a 30-second clip or a 1-minute clip, but can you maintain an audience engagement for 1 hour? And the best way you do that is in person. What actually helps you improve as a public speaker is being able to manage those audience reactions. Tell people all the time, success isn't a mistake, it happens on purpose. So you have to be intentional, and the best way to be intentional, the best way to take out all the guesswork is to put a plan in place. Now watch this when I say put a plan in place.
Are you lacking motivation? Do you know what you want to do next? If not, this is the perfect episode for you, because I'm joined by global international speaker, Mr Beezy. We talk all things motivation. We talk how you overcome the lack of motivation, and we talk the steps needed to ensure you achieve the career of your dreams. If that sounds like a bit of you, make sure to tune in. And guys, you know what to do. If you're liking the podcast, make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. It does wonders for the pod. Over to the show. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What My Best Friend Does, where we talk about what your best friends do so you don't have to. Today, I'm joined by my best friend, the public speaker, Mr Beezy. Mr Beezy, how you doing, bro?
I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well. Welcome to the show. We like to start by taking it way back. What did you want to be growing up?
Oh, good question. I wanted to be an actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, funny enough, people don't really know that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, be in like Hollywood movies so I could see myself next to like Denzel Washington and Will Smith. But as you know, did it happen?
Yeah, okay. So you wanted to be in movies.
Yeah.
Like you said, it didn't happen, but you're now a public speaker. Can you briefly talk us, through your journey to this point? Did you go to university? How did you get into public speaking?
Yeah, sure. I went to university, got my degree. When I finished university, I kind of realized that what I studied at university, that I didn't really want to pursue it as a career. Mm-hmm. So then what I did was I was unemployed for like 9 months. So, I was on like job seekers and getting benefits. And then one day, actually, a friend of mine, I was on a Skype Bible study, right? And she says to me, "Oh, do you have a job?" And I was just like, "Nah." Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, I think you'd be really good for this company." And she was the admin for a company that sent speakers into schools. And I was just like, I don't really know about that because I've never thought about that, never considered it. And she's like, "No, I've seen you speak in church and stuff. I know you're really good at speaking. You'll be fine." So I said, "You know what? My contract at the job that I was doing at the time has literally just come into an end." I said, "Let me be open-minded and just come and like check these speakers out." So, I went and to see these speakers. They took me to like Birmingham and Walsall to like go and see them. And you know what? They really motivated me and got me thinking about my life. And I was like, you know what? Watching the speakers in action like motivate the young people. I said, you know what? This is something I can see myself doing. So then they gave me an opportunity after a few weeks of just like observing, shadowing them. And you know what really changed me and really got me into public speaking was the response from the young people. Mm-hmm. They were coming up to me after the assembly saying how much I've motivated them, how much I changed their life. And I was just like, but I just kept it real with you, kind of thing. And then, do you know what? It probably took me about 2 years of like speaking back to back different schools, colleges, organizations for me to really acknowledge that I had a gift in public speaking. And fast forward till today, I've been doing it for the last 13, going on 14 years this year now.
Wow. So you've been doing public speaking for 13 to 14 years. Just going back to, like that first couple of years, shall we say, how was it you went about getting better at public speaking? Because I know for a lot of people it's quite a nerve-wracking experience. Was it something that you felt nervous about initially, or were you always kind of calm speaking in front of big audiences?
I think public speaking has a lot to do with your mindset. And I think I was someone who never knew public speaking was even an industry. I didn't know it was something that people got paid to do at the time when I first became a public speaker. But one thing I'll say to anyone who wants to do public speaking or try and get better at it is practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having that practice of being in a company where they got you bookings every single week, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I had the practice on the job. So even when talks didn't go well, I was able to analyze why talks didn't go well. When talks did go well, I was able to analyze why talks went well. And every talk I did, I was just able to practice, experiment and test, see what works, see what doesn't work. And then eventually you kind of get this formula of like a structure of a talk that you find works for you.
Yeah.
And I think the best advice I can give is definitely practice, practice, practice. That is the best way you will get better at being a public speaker.
Okay, so it's one of those things where it isn't something that you can just study and learn and, you know, take the test and, oh, presto, like I'm a good public speaker. You have to put the yards in. You got to do the reps, because even me myself recently, I like hosted a panel in a school. And like I do this podcast weekly, right? And doing this podcast, I never really feel nerves. I feel very comfortable. But that panel I hosted in front of year 12 students, I was just there and I was like, what is going on? Like, I was just like, whoa, like I didn't realize how much like little things could like throw off your concentration. And yeah, you know, the practice thing, like, sometimes you want to transition between questions with guests, and without doing the live panel, you don't realize what it is you need to improve. So yeah, I agree. You need to practice.
Yeah, it's something that I tell like the people that are coaching public speaking, that I'm not one of those people that's going to advise you to go and look at yourself in the mirror or go and record a video on your phone. Why? Because that's not going to help you. What actually helps you improve as a public speaker is being able to manage those audience reactions, right? That you can't prepare for that. If someone's talking to their friend, if someone's disengaged, if someone gets up during your speech, if someone just looks like they're uninterested, you can't teach that in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
You learn how to deal with that in person.
100%.
And that's why practice, practice, practice. And anyone that I work with, I always encourage them, look, book a free talk near you in a school, in a church, in an organization, wherever it is, just so you can get that real life practice and know where you need to improve.
Nice. And, you know, just taking it a step back, you do public speaking. Like, do you specialize in a particular area is my first question. And then my second question, like, what is the need for public speaking? Because, you know, you hear about your motivational speaker, this and that. What is the need for it, and what type do you do?
Okay, so for me, I say I'll specialize in motivational speaking.
Yeah.
Just because I have the gift of being able to empower people, transform mindsets. My ethos is I inspire minds, I motivate spirits, and I transform you as an individual, as an organization. Why is public speaking so important? You need public speaking in more ways than you didn't even realize. You need it for that job interview. You need it to host a podcast. There's so many things that you for that presentation at work, right? There's so many things that you need public speaking for. And here's the thing about public speaking. What is public speaking? It's essentially being able to articulate yourself and being able to articulate the message that you have. So one thing I teach people is this, you know, there's one thing being confident in your content, but it's another thing being competent in your content. So you have to be both confident and competent, and public speaking helps you to be competent.
Okay. And then I'm assuming it's the preparation that makes you confident.
Yeah, well, what makes you confident is actually knowing your content.
Okay.
So a lot of people get nervous because they don't know what they're going to say. And when you don't know what you're going to say, there's this element of anxiety because you're like, oh, I'm going to forget what I'm going to say. But when you've mastered essentially your content, know your story, know how you want to articulate it, know the examples you're going to use, that naturally builds up your confidence.
Okay. And, you know, you mentioned the fact that you're like a motivational speaker. Yeah, can you talk about some of the different areas or sectors where you go and you deliver motivation to?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I deliver in 3 main sectors, so education, business/corporate, and sports. So within education, I talk to your schools, your colleges, your universities on all levels, and that's doing motivational assemblies, motivational workshops, staff CPD training sessions, so every scale of education, I deliver it. Been doing it for the last 13 years. Same with companies. So, like Fortune 500 companies, any sort of business. Resilience, team unity, team cohesion, how to improve your strategy, build revenue, all these things I've done with businesses. And in sports, like working with teams within the Premier League, fortunately, and, whether it be academy and in the process of some other things that I can't mention on the podcast. But again, like for example, I did a talk to an academy group about some players were released and some players were retained. And, the whole thing of don't give up on your dream for those of you that have been released, and those of you that have been retained, you have to maintain the work ethic if you don't want to get released as well.
And how is it, that, we spoke about you can be trying to motivate people, and sometimes they might be disinterested. How is it that you tailor your content to make sure you're connecting with those disinterested people?
I think you have to understand that there's so many reasons why people are disengaged. You might be speaking on topics that are quite sensitive to them, so naturally they disengage because they don't want to face those harsh truths that you're speaking about. They might have had an argument that morning and still dealing with the emotions of the argument, so they haven't got their mental capacity to kind of focus on what you're saying. So you have to understand that there's so many reasons why people are disengaged. I think the key thing as a speaker is just to focus on why you're there and the job that you're there to do. So whenever I'm in a talk and I see people that are disengaged, what I do is I focus on the job at hand, which is to motivate and inspire my audience. I know that I have value to give, so I don't look for validation within my audience, and that's one of the things that helps me.
Okay, nice. And then, this is obviously a podcast that's about kind of inspiring careers and educating. You mentioned the fact that you worked for a company. They were able to book you speaking slots on a weekly basis. Now, obviously, knowing you're my brother. Yeah. You've obviously branched out and you now have your own business. Can you talk us through the considerations that you made when transitioning from working for somebody to going out on your own, and why you did that?
I think for me, I was I call it strong-armed into working for myself. So I was very comfortable at the company I was working at. I was the top speaker presenter at the company. I trained all the other speakers in the company. I was on even a monthly retainer. But what it was, I was adding so much value in terms of new content that I was bringing. So I had a discussion with the boss, say, look, I'm bringing new ideas, I'm bringing new content, I'd like a pay rise. And essentially he declined me multiple times, and it got to a stage where the money just wasn't enough. I love what I do, but, I also have a living to make, right? So I just said, what? I'm happy to stay here, but what I'm going to do, I'm not going to beg you for extra money. So I set up my business to supplement the money that I wasn't making at the company. Okay. And then, long story short, my boss saw it as a conflict of interest because it was within the same industry, and essentially let me go.
Wow. What, because he basically saw you as a threat to the business that he already had? Yeah,
he saw me as a threat simply because when clients began to find out that I had my own business, they would say things like they only booked his company to get me to come and speak at their organization. And although I would tell them, look, just go through the company, it's cool, they were like, no, we want to come through you. And he felt like I was poaching clients when essentially I wasn't. And how I know this as well is even when I left and they didn't tell clients that I'd started my own business, they just said, oh, he's left the company, doesn't work here anymore. Clients went to the extent of Googling Mr Beezy, finding my website and contacting me. And when they rang me, they said, look, we rang the company that you used to work for, and they told us that, you don't do speaking anymore. So we Googled you, and that's how we got your contact details.
Wow. And, you've mentioned that sounds like inbound. In terms of, you've been in it a long time. I'm sure you've had to source, some of the Fortune 500 companies, some of the Premier League stuff you've spoken about. How is it you go about prospecting and winning business?
I think there's so many ways to go about it. Number one is your online presence. In anything nowadays, people want to see social proof. They want to see evidence. So I have a website that essentially shows you everything that I do. It lets you know about me. It shows you my videos. It tells you about my services. So you get a good understanding of what it is that I do as a public speaker. Of course, because I've been doing it for so long, I've got the power of word of mouth, right? So I've got clients that anytime I go into their organization, recommend me to another client. And let me be brutally honest, connections as well is so important. So I know a lot of people. I got to speak to a Premier League club through a friend that I knew who knew a coach at the club, right? So having connections, use your network. That's the whole point of having a network. You know, people like to be cute and say, oh, your network is your net worth. So then utilize your network then. So I think one of the best things you can do is utilize your network. I think naturally experience plays a part in it. And then your online presence, you know, what content are you putting out on social media, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram. Clients are going to go on your social media and check you out. Even you, I've got clients that go on my YouTube. And that's not even the platform that I push as such. But because I just naturally, I'm consistent with just putting videos on there, you've got people that like to use YouTube as reference. You've got people that like to use Instagram. You've got people that like to go on your website. You've got people that like to go on your LinkedIn. So you have to be an active online presence if you want to get clients, right? And I think ultimately you just have to have a hunger. You have to know how to market yourself, right? And that's really essential in terms of speaking, because anyone can look good in a 30-second clip or a 1-minute clip. But can you maintain an audience engagement for 1 hour? And the best way you do that is in person. So for me, every time I go and deliver a talk, I over-deliver. I'll just wrap up on this point, right? I was in a school recently for the whole day working with different year groups, right? Whilst I was at the school, I had no idea, hadn't met the head teacher, right? At the end of the day, the head teacher comes up to me and says, I've been on the phone all day to all my head teacher friends, telling them how amazing you are and that they need to book you to come into their schools as well. I had no idea she was doing that. I was just working and doing what I had to do for that school. So things like that happen for me a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, and you touched upon like being consistent and posting across, you know, the different media channels. I obviously see your content. It's great. You're doing really well on TikTok, Instagram. You've mentioned the YouTube. What's your approach to consistency? And to anybody who's looking to, you know, put out motivational content, what would your advice be to them? Like how often and everything?
I think you've got to do it at a stage that is manageable to you.
Okay.
So my honest advice would be start small and then scale your way up. So what do I mean? One video a week. Pick a specific day. Pick a specific time. Stick to it. Monday, 8 a.m. Put out a video every Monday, 8 a.m. every month. So you build an audience that has something to look forward to. Then as you're building, as you're going out, as you're doing engagements, capture everything that you do. All right? That's your content. So in an hour talk, you can essentially get 5 reels out of an hour talk, right? Then you want to be consistent. So whenever you say you're going to post, you see, it's not really about how often you post. It's about being consistent when you do post. So whether you say you're going to do it once a week, whether you say you're going to do it twice a week, whether you say you're going to do it 3 times, just be consistent. The problem is people start and then they stop. And then they start and then they stop. And let me tell you why consistency is important. Consistency builds trust with your audience. It builds trust with your clients. But if you're inconsistent with your posting, then that builds distrust, because they're like, oh, you don't take this serious. So I'm going to go to the person who maybe isn't as good as you, but they look like they're better than you because they're just simply consistent with how they post.
That's really hit me. And I think you know what you said, start like do something manageable. Yeah. I've really seen it in the evolution of this podcast. What you said there is just rung so true. I think, you know, when it used to be Vibes and Tribes, I would do 1 every week, and then I went to 1 every 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it was 1 every, you know, 3rd week, and then back to a week. And when, you know, transitioning into the What My Best Friend Does, I think the key thing to really giving this a go was making that commitment to the audience and saying, hey, you know, it started with, I'm going to do seasons, we're going to do 10 episodes, 10 weeks in a row, take a break, do another 10. But then after that first season, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to make a commitment to my audience to post at least one episode every week. And then once you post one episode every week, all of a sudden you're like, all right, let's do some clips. Let's do one clip every day. Let's do a story every day. Now, you know, we've got the quickfire round. We've just started rolling out quickfire Sundays where we're posting the quickfire rounds from different episodes on Sundays. So to just like, you know, round on that point, it's true. Start small, start manageable, and then scale out, and then it won't seem so daunting. Why do people need to be motivated?
Motivation isn't the issue.
Okay.
Discipline is. All right. Motivation is like petrol to a car, right? There's only so far it can take you before you have to top yourself up for more motivation, right? And if you're not watching motivational videos, listening to music that puts you in a good mood, having positive conversations, you're not going to be motivated. But discipline doesn't require motivation. Discipline just requires you to make a decision. And discipline is essentially doing the things you know you need to do when you don't feel like it. And that's why I tell people all the time, you have to get to a stage where you don't let your feelings control you, and you have to control your feelings. So motivation isn't the challenge, discipline is.
Okay. And, you know, I'm receiving this right now. If I wanted to go on a new discipline journey, what should be the first step that I take?
Pick something that is actually achievable for you to do. I think sometimes people think when it comes to change, you've got to do this big sort of transition.
Yeah.
It's the small things. It might be simply changing the time that you wake up every single day.
Yeah.
So watch this. Let's say it takes 21 days to
Form a habit.
Right? But they actually also say it takes another 21 days to cement that habit. So essentially, it's going to take you about 6 weeks of commitment if you want to see any form of change. And that could be, I'm going to hang my coat in this spot every single day. I'm going to place my shoes there every single day. I'm going to write in my journal every single day. I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week. Whatever you do, you have to be consistent for a minimum of 6 weeks if you really want it to become a habit and a form of change.
And, you know, we've all said, all right, this is it. New me, new year, habits forming. Like you said, it's going to take 6 weeks. I get 8 days in, I fall off. Mm-hmm. To the person that, you know, falls off and is like, oh, well, I've got to start again, or, okay, I can't do this. At that point where you're trying to cement that habit, but yeah, you haven't been able to keep up that commitment, what would you say? How do you get back on track?
Best way to get back on track is to have a plan that you're following. There's a simple saying that says, and sorry to come out with all these quotes here. I don't really like saying cheesy quotes. Yeah,
he must be a motivational speaker.
But there's a quote that says, you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So essentially, the power of a plan is, even if you fall off track, you've got a structure to revert back to that will put you back on track. Yeah. So that's the beauty. And a lot of people have this mentality where they take each day as it comes. You see, I tell people all the time, success isn't a mistake. It happens on purpose. So you have to be intentional. And the best way to be intentional, the best way to take out all the guesswork is to put a plan in place. Now watch this when I say put a plan in place. Put a plan in place that you know is convenient for you to follow. Yeah. There's no point having a plan for the sake of having a plan, but it's a chore for you and it's difficult for you to follow. And I think that's where people make the mistake. They've got this plan, but it's difficult for them. Your plan was never meant to be difficult. Your plan is there for you to execute on.
And when it comes to building that plan, is it a notebook? Is it like Word? Is it Excel? To people who like just don't know where to get started, where would you advise they build this plan?
Whatever works for you.
Okay.
I use my notes in my phone a lot when I'm planning things. For you, you might use a journal. Someone else might use their laptop and, you know, create a Word document. Someone might create a vision board or whatever. But do what works for you. Someone might even have voice memos to prompt it. It's about whatever works for you. You see, everyone has what works for them. You have to identify what works for you.
Okay. I feel like I'm getting like a little personal motivation here. I'm about to go and take over the world. This is sick. You've mentioned the fact that you've had a lot of quotes, right? Can you talk about some of the people who have kind of motivated you and inspired you? Like, who do you follow?
My number one guy, man. E.T. the hip hop preacher, Eric Thomas. He's the number one motivational speaker in the world.
Better than Tony Robbins?
Better than Tony Robbins,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And hear me out, I've been to a 4-day Tony Robbins seminar.
Oh, have you?
I have.
Wow.
Yeah, Unleash the Power Within in 2012.
Yeah.
So I spent 4 days with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Live, in person. But Eric Thomas.
Okay, and
Eric
what is
Thomas
it?
is the guy.
What is it that sets Eric Thomas
His
apart?
energy, his story, his how he speaks, yeah, it's transformational. He just talks so much truth. What he says makes so much sense. And trust me, you can't hear an Eric Thomas speech and not be inspired or empowered to take action. So he's probably the main person that in my journey as a motivational speaker that has really motivated me. And still till today, I look to him and I watch his videos to help keep me motivated.
Okay, and obviously, I'm sure you've listened to him for like a number of years. If you had to, what's the one key thing that Eric Thomas has taught you that you try and take into every day?
I think discipline, man, and integrity. He is big on like integrity, and I think that's something that I really try and implement in my life. Like, what you see is what you get, because he's got this thing of, it's all well and good looking great in the public eye, but there's no point if you look great in public, but in private you're average, right? So I really take stuff like that on board, making sure that I'm congruent across the board, that I'm not just great in the public eye, but I make sure I'm great at home. What does that mean? You've got to be a great husband in your marriage. I've got to be a great brother.
Yeah.
I've got to be a great friend. I've got to be a great steward, great role model. My nieces and nephew, got to be a great uncle to them. I've got to be great in every single aspect of my life. When I'm leading people, when I'm teaching people, I have to be great. I have to uphold that standard of greatness, and that's something that he's really taught me.
I love that. Getting back to public speaking. People who are listening to this, I'm sure they're 25 minutes in, they're pumped. They're like, all right, I want to give it a go. What would your key piece of advice be to anybody who potentially wants to make that first step into public speaking?
Yeah, of course. I get people that ask me this all the time. I want to be a public speaker. Identify your target audience. Who is the audience that you actually want to speak to? Then once you identify the audience, what is the message you actually want to speak about? Like, why do you actually want to be a speaker? I think that's a question you have to ask yourself. So once you kind of identify why you want to be a speaker, then, who is your audience, right? Because that will help you kind of steer what direction you want to go into. So for example, if it's young people, okay, cool, I find my audience in schools. If it's young professionals, you're going to find them in the corporate business sector. If it's athletes, you're going to find them in the sports industry. So knowing your target audience is the best way to kind of help you to find your feet and find your direction. And hear me out when I say this. Narrow down your audience. They call it a niche. Really find your niche, right? Because what I find is people want to talk to everyone. And if you have this persona of you talk to everyone, no one's going to book you, because you don't show expertise in any area. So I started off within education, been doing education I'm an expert when it comes to speaking in schools, colleges, universities, etc. Over the years, I then gradually started transitioning into corporate and then into sports. So I knew I could do them, but I took my time. So that I'm going to cement myself in education first, which was my initial niche. And then after you've got your niche and you've kind of cemented yourself there, then you can begin to branch out and tap into other niches as well.
We also previously spoke about consistency. Like, I see you post like every day, whether it be daily, weekly, whatever. I think there's some people who, call it writer's block, call it whatever. there's 365 days in a year. Where do you get 365 messages from? Like, what are the techniques that you use that people could potentially learn from to help them get that consistent content?
I think it's knowing the platforms. So first of all, I take weekends off.
Okay.
So I post Monday to Friday, right? But then, for example, how I post on LinkedIn is different to how I post on Instagram, how I post on TikTok. So I think knowing the type of content you're going to post, first of all, plays a big part in it. So with LinkedIn, I'll have more written content versus my Instagram and TikTok would be more visuals, so more video content. So naturally the videos is content from my talks that I captured live. And LinkedIn, well, I'm able to educate people on public speaking, how to grow an audience, personal branding, all these things that I didn't realize I've been doing over the last however many years. So I guess it's having a few topics that you feel competent about, that you can speak on, and then what is it that you can educate people on? What is it that you can maybe entertain people on? And what is it that you can inspire people on? So for example, in public speaking, I can tell you a funny story around public speaking, an experience that I've had. I can tell you an inspiring story around public speaking, or I can educate you on principles of how to get in public speaking. Those 3 areas are now 3 days worth of content. So it's just about knowing how to duplicate your content. So have the key themes that you want to talk about. What are stories and experiences you have in your life that you've been through that can relate to those themes? And sometimes you might just even talk about current affairs, so there's so much things you can talk about, but I think pick at least 3 to 5 topics that you feel competent that you can talk about. And even if you talk about one of them Monday to Friday, every day of the week, well, that's 5 days of content. And then rinse and repeat the next week.
And then you mentioned the fact that you tailor your content based on the platform. Would you say that, like, I've seen you obviously emerging on LinkedIn over the last few months. Do you see, like, is it the written word that performs better than the video? Like, where are you seeing the best results as a motivational speaker, on which platform?
Written content. So LinkedIn, I would probably say I get the most engagement on LinkedIn, just because people are very active in terms of commenting on your post. But views, I would say I probably do my best on views on TikTok.
Okay. So
again, and how I think this is crazy is I'd post this exact same video on Instagram and TikTok. One could have like 1,000 to 2,000 views on Instagram. A video on TikTok could have 20,000 views.
Wow.
So don't, know the platforms. So if you're looking for views, you want to build that platform for views, I recommend TikTok. If you want to, have a platform where people are engaging with you and you can essentially build a community, LinkedIn.
Okay.
Know the different platforms.
And for Instagram, what is that?
Instagram, I think, again, I would say more visual, so more videos.
Okay.
I think Instagram is more of a video platform as well.
And then YouTube?
YouTube's not really a platform where people engage in like instant messaging per se.
Yeah.
But YouTube is a good platform for views again, because should your content be powerful, then naturally, people just share it.
Yeah.
And that's the power of, like, you don't know what platform. And I think even a platform that is overlooked, and I probably overlook it as well because my Instagram just automatically posts to my Facebook. But Facebook.
I've heard.
So I have a public speaking page on Facebook, and my Instagram page always posts automatically to my page. But I find that whenever I just like go into Facebook and just let me just try a post out, I've got a community there. I actually got a coaching client from Facebook.
Wow.
Just because I randomly one day said, let me just put this on Facebook as well. And then I got a client from that who I had for 3 months.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate the power of every single platform. But the key is knowing how to use them. And I would say LinkedIn and Twitter are very similar in terms of written content. They perform really well on those platforms. And then video content performs really well on like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and of course Snapchat. But Snapchat's a bit more personal.
I hear that. As a public speaker, have you like noticed any emerging trends over the last year or so?
in terms of
just anything in the public speaking industry? Like, has there been like a wave of like a type of public speaker? Has there been more people like starting podcasts? Like, yeah, just any trends in general.
I think there's a lot more people getting into public speaking. I think there's a lot more talks around resilience, diversity, mental health, personal branding. But other than that, that's probably the main sort of key trends that I've noticed. But there has been an influx, I would say, over the last year that I've noticed of people who really want to get into public speaking.
And would you say that there's any misconceptions about public speaking? And yeah, things that people, when they hear public speaker, they just say something like, that's not true.
Yeah, I think people have this misconception that public speakers are cheesy.
Yeah.
So I always find that, especially when I work with schools, that, oh yeah, we've got this motivational speaker. I'm like, oh, here we go. You can almost like see the audience like, oh, here we go, who's this guy? So they've almost got a negative like perception for whatever reason. But I find that exactly what you said, it's a misconception. But by the time I talk, within 5 minutes, I win over my audience, because whatever they were thinking, I'm showing them that that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm able to engage them that way. But I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, that they're these guys that are cheesy and they're going to say these cheesy quotes to you. No. Don't ever get it twisted. Like, we got heat and we're going to empower you for sure. Yeah.
Okay, sick. What I want to do now, obviously, you're quite a motivational person. So I've just taken some quotes that you've said online. I just want to get your perspective on like why you said them, and like allow you to elaborate on them a little bit more.
Sure.
So the first one is getting fired is a good thing.
The reason why I said getting fired is a good thing is because for me, getting fired is the reason why I'm here today, is the reason why my business is thriving. If I didn't get fired, I'd probably still be working for that company that I started with, unhappy with the pay that I was getting, and have my growth, stagnant, right? So why getting fired is a good thing is because sometimes getting fired can lead you into your destiny. It can lead you into your purpose. You see, people don't like leaving their comfort zone, but outside your comfort zone is where your true success is waiting for you. And I have to make this extremely clear. When I got fired, I had no clients. I didn't know where my next booking was coming from. But because I learnt how they marketed themselves, because I knew what sort of prices they were charging, I just went and duplicated exactly what they were doing, marketed myself in the same way, price matched them or price beat them in a lot of my prices, these things. But I was aggressive. I had that determination. I had that hunger. So I say getting fired is a good thing, because getting fired can push you into your destiny.
Okay. I love it. And I think I've heard people say before, sometimes the greatest change happens when the pain of inaction is greater than the pain of action. You just have to make the change. And I think getting fired, you've obviously got no options, right? You've got no option but to make money, so you make it happen. Sick. The second one I have here is that you just talk about like the need for authenticity. A lot of your posts center around authenticity and being yourself. Can you just why is we've had a lot of guests on the podcast, and a quote that I've said in the past on this podcast is when you train your strength, your weaknesses, you become strong. When you train your strengths, you become unique. And being unique is your superpower. So just talk to us about authenticity.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. Being unique is your superpower, right? I think people fall into the trap of they see something working well for someone and they try and copy that person. So for example, I can't be Eric Thomas, I can only be Mr Beezy. I can't be Tony Robbins, I can only be Mr Beezy. Tony Robbins is the best Tony Robbins he can be because that's him. Eric Thomas is the best Eric Thomas he can be because that's him. I'm the best Mr Beezy because that's me. There can't be another Mr Beezy, right? And the reason why this is so important is it's easier to be yourself. It's harder to try and be like someone else.
100%.
So, but also people resonate and connect with you when you are yourself. That is your power. That's how you build your audience. So I say to people all the time, just look at the music industry. Beyonce's got her fans, Rihanna's got her fans. They're both in the same industry, but they're both two different types of artists, right? But because they've been authentic in who they are, naturally their audience has gravitated towards them. And that's the power of being authentic. When you are authentic, you allow your tribe, you allow your audience to actually gravitate towards you. When you're not yourself, you can't build an audience because being fake isn't sustainable. At some point, you're going to crumble. At some point, you're going to crack. At some point, the real you has to show up. So I say, why not allow the real you to show up right from the beginning?
And in terms of like posting content and being authentic, like what would you advise as the best way to show the real you in the content that you post?
I think tell people about yourself, treat your content like a conversation with your friends. So I had to tell this to one of my clients the other day. In our coaching session, I said, stop. I said, how do you talk to your best friend? Like, oh, hey. So I said, so why isn't that coming out? Why are you putting on this persona, this act of, oh, I'm a speaker, so this is how I need to speak. Oh, I'm on LinkedIn, so this is how I need to post. If you're a type of person that says, yo, what's up? Start your post with, yo, what's up, LinkedIn family? Because that is you. And people will resonate with that. But what people are doing is, oh, this person's got 100,000 followers, so I must post just like them. No. They posting like them because that's what works for them. Post like you and do what works for you. I can't stress that enough. Being yourself is your unique selling point. Is the thing that's going to set you apart. Is the thing that is actually going to attract people to you. So watch this. If you're not authentic, then you won't attract people to you.
I hear that. So what I took from that is my next LinkedIn post is going to start with Wagwan family. And look, if I get in any trouble for posting that, I'm coming to you.
You'll get a Wagwan back, trust me. Because I see people do it. You got people on LinkedIn that wrote, woo, and all these other crazy phrases. And some people do memes and that's their character, that's their persona, and it works for them.
So so basically it's kind of like be yourself, and like the people that you'll want to attract will come to you. And if there's people that don't necessarily vibe with your content, maybe they just weren't for you anyway.
Yeah, and I think you have to understand that it takes time. Things take time. Being yourself, if you get 5 likes, it doesn't matter. You have to consistently show up as yourself. That's how you grow. That's how you build, right? Someone said something in like a WhatsApp group that I have that I've created, right? And she was like, "Oh yeah, warrior." Whenever I hear warrior mode, I think of you, Mr Beezy. Why? Because every time I'm in the gym and I'm wrapping up my gym post, I always say warrior mode.
Yeah.
Right. So now that's been associated. But why did I say warrior mode? Because that's how I feel like when I'm on that Stairmaster and I'm doing that cardio and it's tough. I have to tap into that warrior mode to keep myself going. And because I've been consistent, I didn't think of, oh, what's this cool phrase I can say that people... No, just because I was consistent every time I posted saying it, then guess what's happened now? People are now tapping into it. Oh yeah, warrior mode. So guess what's coming out next? Warrior mode t-shirt. That's what we do. No, but do you know what I'm saying? But through being authentic, these things naturally happen. And I find a lot of my actual sayings that I'm known for have happened randomly because I was just authentic.
Okay. I love it. I find myself saying some phrases. Maybe I should just post them. I've tried to start posting them, but come back to what you're saying, I don't think I'm the most consistent. And, just the final thing I'll say on this, because I know we've spoken about it a lot, but there's a lot of people who are trying to brand build at the moment. I know we've spoken offline about this. Can you talk about like the importance of engaging with other people's content as a way of building your own audience? Because there's one thing. It's one thing to post and be consistent. It's another thing to interact with other people's content and post, right? So yeah, could you just share a little bit on that?
I made this mistake for the last 10 years, where I would only post my content and not engage with anyone else. And I had an epiphany, a revelation, whatever you want to call it. It's called social media, not anti-social media.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are on social media and they're antisocial. They want to post their content and expect people to socialize with them on their content, but they don't socialize on anyone else's content.
It's true.
Right? So I realized something, especially on LinkedIn, and that's why my following's grown quite rapidly on LinkedIn, right? Is when you show people love, they show you love back. Let's even use Instagram for an example. When you post your friend on your story for their birthday, guess what they're going to do?
Reshare it.
When it's your birthday, they're going to post you on their story. They're going to give you the love back. So what I realized is engaging is important. But watch this. Valuable engagement. So don't just be writing stuff like, oh, thanks for sharing, that was great. Actually read the post and say something you've learned, or add your own insight, add your own point of view. Like actually give a valuable contribution. Another thing that I do that works really well for me on LinkedIn is after I've like commented on the creator's post, I find 3 people within that post who have commented and I engage with them as well. And I give a valuable reply to their comments as well. Because then what happens is now I'm exposing my profile to 3 more people. Now, can you imagine if I'm posting once a day, I'm commenting 20 times a day, I'm replying to 3 more comments on those 20 posts a day. My eyes, my profile potentially gets exposed to now roughly, let's call it 100 profiles. Even if 50% of those profiles click on my profile and like what they see, guess what they're going to do? They're going to click that follow button. And you see it on Instagram. So people naturally engage with you when you engage with them. And just on the business side of things, when you see people following you, when you see people engage with you, start a conversation in the DM. Hey, what made you follow me? Hey, what made you engage with my content? Like, hey, what was it that stood out to you? Just be like a genuine conversation. So then you find out, oh, is this a potential client or is this someone that is just going to be like a genuine sort of connection and we just vibe? So I think, but the takeaway from this is if you want people to engage with your content, you must first of all engage with people's content. Like treat people how you want to be treated.
It's called social media, not anti-social media. 100%. That hit me that's so crazy because you're right. People are anti-social. Yeah. So many takeaways from this conversation. I mean, bro, obviously you do a lot. You wake up crazy early, you do all this posting, you travel here, there and everywhere. Do you have any productivity hacks?
Oh, I think productivity, again, I think it's knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Because I think that's what's going to really push you when you understand your why. So where I have a deep-rooted why, like I want to be successful, I want to look after my wife and my family, I want to make sure that my kids in the future are comfortable and success. Like even with like going to the gym, I want to transform my physique, have a good physique, be healthy, be fit like when I have children. Like these things, it's deeper than me. So it pushes me every single day. Do I feel like going to the gym at 4:15 in the morning? Heck no. But I push myself every single day because I remind myself of why I'm doing it. When I don't feel like doing any work for my business, I remind myself why I'm doing it. You have to remind yourself at times why you are doing it. Because guess what? Burnout is real. Feeling tired is real. Feeling frustrated is real. These feelings are emotional. And when these feelings come, and they will come, you have to remind yourself why you are doing it. There's a saying that we say, your why will push you when you can't push yourself.
Sick. What would you say the most rewarding part of being a public speaker is?
Changing lives. And hear me out when I say changing lives. I ain't saying to be cheesy. Let me tell you an experience I had, and this reminds me of why I do what I do. I was at a college a couple of years ago, delivered my talk. I'm in the car park going to my car. The student says to me, "Can I talk to you quickly?" And I was thinking, like, what's going on? I'm like, cool, sure, what's up? And she was like, "You don't know this, but last night and this morning, I tried to take my life. But you've shown me today through your speech that my life has a purpose." Now hear me out. I had no idea that there was someone in my audience that tried to commit suicide the night before and that morning. How do I know my words really had an impact on that student? I was invited back to that college 3 months later to go and see these same students and look at their final projects, right? I couldn't believe it when I saw that girl. She was literally glowing. She ran up to me and was like, "Oh, Mr. Beezy, come, I want to show you my project." And let me tell you something, she might have thought I was weird because of the way I was staring at her. Because I was just like, this can't be the same girl.
Yeah.
I remember what you were saying to me in that car park and how you looked. Just the way she looked, the way she dressed was different. I've had students who have overcome self-harming. That's why I do what I do. Because you don't know the impact that your words are having on your audience. And it's not just about young people, it's adults too, right? Words have power, words carry meaning. You have the opportunity to give someone meaning again, to give them that belief back that they once lost. So for me, being a public speaker is the most fulfilling job I could ever do, because I have the opportunity not just to change lives, but to potentially save lives too.
Very profound, very deep. Yeah, just taking a breath to take that in. On the flip side, obviously, like, you're a very positive person, right? Everything is about mind over matter. You can versus you can't. What would you say the most stressful aspect of being a public speaker is?
Always having to be positive.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, right? Like, always having to be motivated. Down to when I'm on holiday. "Oh, what you do for a living?" "Oh, yeah, I'm a motivational speaker." "Oh, really? Go on then. Motivate me." I'm like, mate, I'm on holiday.
Yeah.
So it's this thing of, like, almost you have to be perfect as a motivational speaker. You can't have any flaws. You're not allowed to be lazy. You're not allowed to have days where you're unmotivated. And people have to understand, motivational speaking is what I do, is not who I am. I am a human being. Motivational speaking is what I do. Does that make sense? So there's this pressure of always having to be perfect.
Yeah, it's a bit like with footballers and actors and everything. Like, they're just footballers, right? That isn't their whole
job.
being. Yeah. So yeah, that makes complete sense. How is it that you unwind from the job?
Many ways, man. Stuff like watching Netflix, playing football, just socializing, going out to eat with my wife, going to cinema. I'm a sociable person, but and I just like to just chill, So I'm actually quite a homebody as much as I'm quite social. So I actually enjoy my own space. I enjoy being in my house. I enjoy I actually play my PlayStation, my PS5. I'll go on FIFA. I've got a group of guys that we've got a team with online. We're going to play other guys.
Yeah.
But going on my PlayStation playing FIFA, it allows me to switch off from the world. Finding a series that I like on Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus, all the platforms, it allows me to switch off. Or going out and just, being in a different space, eating, playing football, being active. These things just help me to unwind and switch off.
Sick. This has been such a sick conversation. To anybody who has, listened, has gotten to this point, they're pumped up. Like, what is the one thing you would want them to take away from this episode?
Anything is possible, if you put your mind to it. The biggest obstacle in your life is yourself. You have the power to talk yourself into doing something, and you have the power to talk yourself out of doing something. So I would just say, understand the power that you have and talk yourself into doing the things that you need to do, that you know will benefit you. Nothing is too far out of your reach. You never know until you try, man. So just give it a go. You've got nothing to lose by trying to make that change, but you've got everything to gain by trying to make that change.
Sick. You've been at it for 13, coming up to 14 years. Where does Mr Beezy see himself in the next 5 and 10 years?
International. Well, I'm international already, but international on a bigger scale. So I want to speak in more countries. Even from this year, I'm really starting to train and develop a team. And I want to have a team globally. So not just in the UK. I want to have teams in the Middle East. I want to have teams in Africa. I want to have teams in Asia, in America, literally all over the world. I want to, be the best of the best. I want to be alongside the Tony Robbins, the Eric Thomases of the world, and speaking on global stages. I want to have a positive impact in curriculums within education. I want to have an impact possibly within politics, just being a positive public figure. And, I want to really, one thing I'm passionate about is I want to help young people who are struggling financially. I want to help to train them up as speakers. I want to show them how to get into real estate. I've got some really, really big plans of how I just want to provide jobs for people essentially so that they can look after themselves and their families in the future.
Cheese. Sick. Bro, we got a quick fire round. You ready?
I'm ready, man.
Love it. Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Would you rather deliver a speech that resonates deeply with a few individuals, or one that's broad but perhaps less profound, impacting a larger audience?
Impacts less individuals.
Okay, so less, more profound. Best motivational speaker you know?
Eric Thomas.
Yep. Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I've ever been given, was actually to be patient.
Just to be patient.
Yeah.
Love that. Would you rather be known for delivering powerful, emotional speeches or providing practical, actionable advice that leads to tangible results?
Ooh. I think tangible results is like a standard. You want to produce tangible results, but powerful and emotional is me, man.
Yeah, powerful and emotional. Yeah. Be authentically yourself.
I want to make you cry.
Are there any sayings that you swear by?
Don't get too comfortable.
Okay, love that. Who has it easier, men or women?
Neither.
Okay, whoa, okay. Who would be your dream client to provide motivation to?
Ooh. Probably as an organisation, or
It can be individual or organisation.
I think organisation, Chelsea Football Club, because they need me right now. I'm a Chelsea fan. Chelsea, get me in if you're watching this.
Yeah.
But my ideal client is anyone who genuinely has lost that belief, is struggling with doubt and fear, and they don't know how to overcome it. That is my ideal client. I will give you that motivation to believe in yourself again.
I love it. And then finally, is there a dream place where you'd like to deliver an impactful speech? So if you could deliver that powerful speech where you make people cry anywhere, where would it be?
America.
Okay, just anywhere there.
Any part of America. I've got a few countries: America, Dubai, Australia, China.
Okay.
The list goes on. But I think definitely international. But America is somewhere that I think motivational speaking is big. But I just feel that I can do something there as well.
Sick. We do have a closing tradition on this podcast. And yeah, basically, based on everything we've spoken about and knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self? And would you still be doing the same thing?
The advice I would give to my younger self is be disciplined and consistent. If you're disciplined and consistent, success is a guarantee. I feel that is what leads to success, and that is what stops people from being successful. And ultimately as well, dream big. Like, don't limit what you can achieve. So have the power to dream big, like have crazy dreams, and then be disciplined and consistent in pursuing those dreams.
Mr Beezy, this has been such a sick conversation. Where can people find you, bro?
Ooh, all over social media. Every single platform. I'm on every single platform. Just type in Mr Beezy. But essentially, you can go to my website, which is www.mrbeezy.com. My Instagram's easy. It's Mr_Beezy. On LinkedIn, you can find me. My name is Mr Beezy. And again, if you type Mr Beezy on other platforms like Twitter and stuff, you'll find me.
Okay, sick. Bro, thank you so much, man. This has been such a sick conversation. Guys, you know what to do if you've gotten this far. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. I hope that you leave this conversation as inspired and motivated as I have. And yeah, with that, it's been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Over and out.